Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I like to discuss how the government are giving the strong impression that if they ever were serious about their post-Brexit global Britain, then those ambitions have been thrown into the bin for now, as we are cutting back our diplomacy force by 20% over the next few years. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So one by one, of course, the promises of Brexit are being abandoned. Several of them were abandoned before we even left the EU, with several more since. I've sometimes wondered how many of their own lies Brexit supporters really believed. Certainly for a great many people who voted for Brexit, this notion that the UK would be unshackled and could reach its real potential once out the EU was powerful. Boris Johnson certainly made his big play of it in the 2019 general election campaign. Unleash Britain's potential, he said. We were leaving a politically powerful organisation in the EU. And it's not just that we were part of it. I need to keep emphasising that we're one of the big three decision makers in the bloc. Very little happened that we did not support, and very little of what we badly wanted was denied. When we left it, what did we have? The G7 is just a talking shop. Same with the UN. NATO is fast becoming irrelevant and at any rate is not a vehicle to impose global influence. Now, if we were going to remain a key player on the world stage, we were going to have to make new links with other countries, a lot of them as well. All seems fine and dandy to a Brexit supporter, I imagine. But making those links means having conversations. It means understanding those other countries, having in-depth knowledge about their culture, their economy, their politics. What is it they want? What is it that we want from them? And what are they prepared to give for the right price? What can we offer them in return for what we want? All of those things become much more difficult after tearing down decades of carefully built bridges across the world. But it is possible to remake different bridges with the political will and some patience. This is what international diplomacy is all about. And for diplomacy, you need diplomats. You need dedicated people who will immerse themselves in the culture and the life of those other countries. They'll live there and provide invaluable links with influential people, these links that they will build up, as well as organisations. You need them to explain to senior officials and politicians in the UK who have no idea what's going on in that country, what we can realistically achieve and how we can do that. In the Times, about a week ago, there was an article explaining that the Foreign Office was planning to reduce staff numbers by 20% over the next 4 years. When you need to build new bridges, you need more staff, not fewer. The paper quoted former ambassadors saying that this move could severely damage our global reputation. But you don't need to be an experienced diplomat to know that. I really don't know how people think diplomacy actually works. Do they think countries just bend over backwards to give us what we want after a half-hour phone call from our clown of a prime minister who couldn't even point their country out on a map, who will have to ask who is the head of government he's even talking to on the other end of the line? Bear in mind that Boris Johnson has already badly damaged our relationship with our European neighbours and with the United States. He is chasing better relationships with countries with whom our global aims are not aligned. And now he's trying to do it with even less staff at his disposal, which is utter madness. This will directly lead to a failure of understanding of international issues. The Foreign and Commonwealth Office was renowned for understanding issues across the world. Our governments had at their fingertips, should ministers have the wisdom to access it, detailed knowledge of almost everything of value in international relations. Born of the global network of links that we made whilst we were busy nicking large amounts of the world. But never mind how it started. We're very sorry, some of us anyway, but those links were invaluable. Now they're being eroded. They're going to be further eroded over the next few years. In future, when ministers try to engage diplomatically with other countries, we're going to be lacking vital intelligence. More ways than one. It put me in mind of our post-Brexit trade deals, really. To get our deals with Japan, the EU, Australia, New Zealand, and at some point the US, we have just essentially given them whatever they asked for. And the reason for that has largely been haste. Boris Johnson needed trade deals and needed them quickly. The government set a target of free trade deals with something like 80% of the world by 2022. We've got a couple of weeks. You know, even if we use Johnson's definition of free trade, which doesn't actually seem to include the ability to trade freely, we're nowhere near that target. But that's fine. The Express and the Mail will happily publish a long list of trade deals that we have come up with, even though they are mostly identical to what we had, and in some cases worse than what the EU currently have. But it will look impressive to their readers. But that's why Johnson needed to act in haste. It was a necessary political stunt. But even if Johnson is removed and replaced with someone with a more mature attitude towards diplomacy, they will still lack the tools to project themselves onto the world stage. They won't have the expertise available. They won't have the network of contacts available. We'll just be this insular little island with quaint notions of how the rest of the world operates, but also one without ready-made lines of communication. Being clear, diplomacy is not conducted by politicians, but by diplomats. Yes, the media will publish photos of ministers having phone conversations. Some of these ministers will even be holding the handset the right way round. But they are not agreeing anything. It's a courtesy call, a photo opportunity to shore up what has been worked out by the diplomats on both sides and already agreed. And now we're going to chop our already depleted diplomacy core down by another 20%. And this can only mean that our current government really do think that they are the ones who strike deals. They believe their own propaganda. Trade Minister Penny Mordaunt has been in America. Her speeches have been raising a few eyebrows. It was described in The Independent as begging for a trade deal. But it was worse than that. She basically threatened the United States. I talked about how her boss, Anne-Marie Trevelyan, had earlier visited the USA and threatened them with a trade war if they didn't cancel the Trump-era steel and aluminium tariffs. Now Mordaunt is telling the USA that Brexit has given them an opportunity. Really? I thought it was giving the UK an opportunity. But apparently, according to Mordaunt, the opportunity that the USA has is to basically join the UK in an ideological war against the EU. Give us the trade deal, ignore the EU, the large market in Europe, and ignore the way the EU does things, likening them to China. Her specific problem was with EU regulations. But therein lies the rub. See, she talks about promoting what she calls free trade, which isn't actually free trade. She just means unregulated trade. She complains about EU regulations being copied around the world. But that isn't because other countries are buying into the philosophy. It's because they have to. The EU is a huge and wealthy market. If you want to sell your products there, you have to comply with their regulations. But there's other markets you want to sell to as well, and you have to comply with their regulations as well. But if the standards of the EU are the highest of all your target markets, obviously you manufacture to be able to meet those highest standards, the EU standards, because then they will also be fine for the other markets as well. She seems to be missing this point. American companies selling internationally adopt EU standards, not because of some shared philosophy, certainly not because Congress tell them to, but because of economic necessity. Her speech is the very opposite of pragmatic and realistic. Delusional ministers need experienced diplomats the most of all, and yet they're going to plod on with fewer of them than had their predecessors. The world is going to eat global Britain for breakfast. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.